Mayor Bontempo,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Weber,
Here.
Mr. Catelli is not with us this evening. Dr. Pascucci,
Here.
Mr. Santana.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you, everybody. Everyone, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and please remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence to honor our troops, both home and abroad, who work to protect us each and every day. Thank you. So before I roll into the agenda, let's go through approval of minutes. We do both together, Wendy?
Yes, approval of minutes for August 11, 2020 executive and public sessions and September 8, 2020 executive and public sessions that were forwarded to the committee before the meeting for review.
Move.
We have a second.
Second.
Roll call.
Dr. Pascucci,
Yes.
Mr. Santana,
Prakash, you're muted. You're no audio. We can't hear you.
Okay, yes, yes.
thank you. Ms. Weber,
Yes.
Mayor Bontempo.
Yes.
Okay, both sets of minutes have been approved.
So next portion on the agenda are the agenda items, public comment. Before I go to public comment, Sharon, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yes. Yes, Mayor, thank you. I just wanted to, in light of the last meeting, we're in the process of updating our agenda reports. We expect to have those updates next meeting. That was at the request of the Township Committee at the last meeting to just provide a little bit more information, particularly on purchases. So I just, if I may, before we go to public comment, I want to talk about 3 of the purchases that are up for the Township Committee's review tonight. It's Resolution 2020-325, 326, and 327. 325 was part of the 2020 capital, and I also want to make some, I noticed some typo corrections, so I'll do that at the end. 325 is for a liner. This is literally the machine that lines fields. It's a replacement liner, and it was approved in the 2020 capital budget. If you notice, the prices came in a little bit higher than our estimate, but it's still within what our capital budgeting, so there's no additional funds that will be needed. Item 326 is for a landscape trailer. This was part of 2019's capital budget proposal. It does various things, including moving around equipment and supplies for our public works department. It will play a big role in 2 things. One, which couldn't have even been predicted last year, but one will be some of the additional equipment that is needed for the $1 million improvements to Phillips Park that this Township Committee did. So it will help us with that equipment that we need. It will also actually help with storage of some of the items that are currently in the building that it will be demolished as a result of the firehouse purchase. So that trailer will serve that. And again, that's part of the was part of the 2019 capital program. We just hadn't gotten around to purchasing it. Last year was quite a busy year. And then the last is office furniture. It's for our police department. It's for our lieutenant's offices, for our traffic bureau, and for administration in general. This is actually a combination of approved items from 2017 and 2019 capital budget. We got 1 quote for all of the offices. We actually were able to, despite just going with items that are on the state contract, we went out for quotes and actually found a little bit of savings for the Township Committee. So that's kind of the explanation behind those 3 purchases. And as I said, we're in the process of updating our agenda reports, and in the next meetings, those will just be part of any items that are up for the Township Committee consideration. I did notice a couple of typos, and I think that's part of just transcribing. So if we could note on item Resolution 2020-326. The correct account should be C-04-19-009-000-903. And for 327, the last, I'm sorry, the amounts should be for the first, I'm sorry, for the second, C-04-17-008-912. That amount should be $5,210.65. The typo was 5 instead of a 2. And then the last, a number is missing. It should be C-04-19-009-000-902. And that's for the $18,800.35. Those were just typos in the transcribing, which will all be part of the updated process that we're working on. I'm happy to answer any questions on anything else, but I just wanted everyone to know what those purchases were for.
Thank you, Administrator. Any questions from the
Thank you.
committee?
Thank you, Sharon. Appreciate it. It was very helpful. You hear me?
Yep, we got you now. Anybody else in the committee have any questions? Good. Open up for public comment on agenda items only. Any public comment on agenda items on tonight's agenda?
There are no hands up at this time, Mayor.
Close public
Also,
portion.
I just want to mention, and I don't know if anybody is joining by phone. I don't believe they are, but if you would like to raise your hand by phone, you can press *9.
You good? All right. So consent agenda resolution items 2020-319 through 2020-333. Do I have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Roll call. Roll call, Wendy? Wendy, you're up.
Sorry, Dr. Pascucci,
Yes.
Mr. Santana,
Yes.
Ms. Weber,
Yes.
Mayor Bontempo.
Yes.
Okay, resolutions 2020-319 through 2020-333 have been successfully passed.
Wendy, next is introduction of ordinances 2020-24.
Yes, which is an ordinance approving revisions to Chapter 30, Section 13, titled Guarantees and Inspections and Related Provisions. Motion to adopt on first reading, published in the Asbury Park Press, and set the public hearing for November 10th, 2020.
I have a motion.
Move.
Move.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Dr. Pascucci,
Yes.
Mr. Santana,
Yes.
Ms. Weber,
Yes.
Mayor Bontempo.
Yes.
Okay, in ordinance 2020-24 will be set for the November 10th, 2020 public hearing.
Thank you, Wendy. Next is a hearing on ordinance 20-22.
Which is an ordinance amending ordinance 2-84 governing purchasing.
Council, you want to give a brief explanation of what this is?
Sure, Mayor. This ordinance updates the township's code concerning the purchasing agent. I know there have been a couple of instances recently where the township needed to complete some purchases related to, I believe, the storm, and had to consider doing so on an emergency basis, which is a bit unusual because the threshold for contract award was set at $3,500 back in this when the ordinances were adopted in the 1970s. So this updates that threshold to $44,000, which is the maximum threshold set by the governor, and it will update every year to follow the governor's threshold, which is simply pegged to inflation. So any contract under that amount can be awarded directly by the township's qualified purchasing agent, which is an official who has, been certified to be able to award contracts and follow the local public contracts law. So those smaller type procurements can be then done directly by the QPA without having to come to the committee. but to ensure transparency and to make sure the committee is aware of all those purchases, we included a provision in the ordinance that the administrator will regularly advise the committee of any purchases that are made directly by the QPA.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? That makes it open up for public hearing, public comment on 2020-22.
There are no hands up at this time, Mayor.
Okay, I will then close public portion and ask for a motion.
Moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Pascucci?
Yes.
Mr. Santana?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Bontempo?
Yes.
So ordinance 2020-22 has been successfully passed,
Next hearing, Wendy's 2020-23.
which is an ordinance establishing a four-way stop sign at Telegraph Hill Road and Holland Road and South Holland Road and Tacaloosa Drive.
Council, you want to give a brief explanation on this ordinance as well?
Sure, Mayor. This is establishing a four-way stop at the South Holland Road intersection with Tacaloosa and Telegraph Hill. And I would probably defer to the Township Engineer, Ben Matlack, if there are any questions on the four-way stop.
Ben, anything you'd like to add?
Just real quick, Mayor, we performed a warrant analysis at this intersection. We reviewed the layout of the intersection, we did traffic counts and reviewed the accident history and determined that four-way stop is warranted at this intersection. So that's why this is being brought to your for a vote.
I appreciate that. I know you expedited this and got this back in front of the Township Committee fairly quickly, so thank you for that. Any questions or comments from the committee?
Yeah, I have a question. So Ben, would this be an interim step? I know based on your analysis, you said we could put a rotary in there as well, right? So we should do this right away, but would this be an interim step?
It could be an interim step. If this ends up being just a four-way stop, that's perfectly acceptable as well. I know the police department has expressed interest in putting in a roundabout at this intersection, so we're looking into that as well.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything else on the committee? That being said, open up for public comment. Any public comment on ordinance 2020-23?
There are no hands up at this time, Mayor.
Okay. None being seen, I will close public comment. Do I have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Roll call.
Dr. Pascucci?
Yes.
Mr. Santana?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes, with thanks to the Township Administrator and Township Engineer for their rapid response on this and making this happen in 2 months when it had been promised by prior administrations over 2 years ago. Thank you.
Mayor Bontempo?
Yes.
Okay, so ordinance 2020-23 has been successfully passed.
Perfect. Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you.
Department updates start with our CFO. Bill, any updates from you this evening?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. The tax collection rate remains higher than last year, about 0.9% higher than we were last year, which is pretty good. Also, the added assessments bills will be going out for anybody that has any new additions or added assessments on their property. And a reminder that both the taxes and pilots are both due on November 1st. You have a 10-day grace period through the 10th of November. After that, you will be charged interest.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay.
Any questions on the committee for our CFO? Thank you, Bill. Doing a great job.
Thank you.
Administrator, any updates from your desk?
I just have a couple of things. I wanted to mention that the Township Committee and our Recreation Department will be hosting a Drive Boo, a socially distanced, safe event for families to bring their children. We will have blow ups and characters from our emergency services departments, and cars can drive through. That's the drive boo instead of drive through. We currently have 384 people registered. You do need to register in order for us to be able to manage this and keep this as a safe event. We do need registrations. So we're just excited about that. I also wanted to let everyone know that Mayor and Township Committee and the Rec Department are working on putting together a senior Halloween luncheon that is also socially safe. We generally do many more events, but because of the pandemic, we haven't been able to, but we want to do something for our seniors. So we're working on the final details for that, and that should be forthcoming very shortly. Other than that, I know that the TABS committee has some updates, but I'm going to leave that to Deputy Mayor Weber as the liaison to that committee, but there's some really exciting things coming out of there. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I also just wanted to note that this is technically the second meeting we've had in October. I don't anticipate, aside from the regular payment of bills, many resolutions needed for the second meeting in October. So if the Township Committee wants to consider canceling that meeting, it wouldn't be a problem on administration's end.
Okay, I'm fine with that. You guys okay?
I'm fine with canceling it. And just one question about the Halloween event.
Yes.
Is the administrator and mayor going to be there dressed up?
Administrator will be there dressed up.
I would love to.
As the town
I
administrator.
had a conflict. Nobody wants, I'm scary enough. I don't need a costume.
Oh, come on.
Just consistent with past practice, Mayor, do you want to just take a quick motion on the canceling of the late October meeting?
Yes, do we have a motion, please?
Move.
Second.
Roll call.
Dr. Pascucci,
Yes.
Mr. Santana,
Yes.
Ms. Weber,
Yes.
Mayor Bontempo.
Yes.
Okay, we'll cancel the
you.
meeting.
Hey, Sharon, would you mind just touching base on the questions that you and Wendy are feeling right now from the residents on voting and some of the voting processes, and maybe giving some general guidance as to some tips that they should be aware of?
Sure. And Wendy, if I miss anything, feel free to jump in. We have, we've received we've received several questions about voting into the clerk's office. A couple have come into administration. For those that don't know, today was the last day to register to vote. Every registered voter will receive a ballot in the mail. There are 3 ways to return that ballot. The first way is you can return it via mail. If you choose this way, our recommendation and the county clerk's recommendation is to mail it in as early as possible to make sure that it gets there on time. The second way is there are several drop boxes throughout the county that are specific election drop boxes. You can drop it in one of those, or you can actually go to the polls. We'll only have 2 sites in Holmdel on election day and hand in your vote by mail ballot. Anyone can also go to the polls and vote provisionally on the polls, but they're not accepting regular voting at the actual voting booths unless you have a disability. Now, a couple of things that have, I believe, have risen alarm. There is a white van with Delaware plates that has been hired by the County of Monmouth to go around to these established ballot boxes and pick up the ballots. It looks strange because the van is not marked and the plates are from Delaware, but it is a contractor of the County of Monmouth. There is no need for alarm there. Another issue that has been brought to our attention is some people may have received their mail-in ballot, but the ballot's actually not in the package. This is new to everybody, and there is a lot of confusion. If that happens, you can contact the clerk and they will send you a replacement ballot. All of this information is on our township website. We have pushed it out via email if you're on our list. We've posted it on Facebook. The information's on the website. It's also on the county's website. And there you can also find out where these drop-in mail-in ballot boxes are. Wendy, did I miss anything?
One additional thing is that you can bring your ballot directly to the Board of Elections in Freehold.
Yes.
You can bring
Yeah.
it there. Another thing is that if your ballot is damaged, misplaced, or you have not received the mail-in ballot, you have to contact the Monmouth County Election Office. Unfortunately, my office doesn't send them out. So their phone number is 732-431-7790. And as Sharon stated, we do update our Holmdel Township website with as much information as we get from the Monmouth County website.
We even have a video on our website right now.
Yes, we do.
I just want to point out one thing, that if you're carrying ballots for your friends or relatives, you can only carry a maximum of 3 ballots. And you have to fill out the bearer information on the outside envelope. If you don't do that, your ballot may not be accepted, or their ballot may not be accepted.
And for everyone, just to add to that, you do need to sign the outside of your ballot. Make sure you read the instructions. I know this is new to a lot of people this year, but the ballots do come with step-by-step instructions. Make sure you fill out all the steps, you keep your envelope intact. You don't want your ballot to not count.
Thank you, Sharon. Any other questions or comments from the committee?
I would just add the easy website is Monmouth County Votes, and they have all the information there. You can go right to the source, and that's where they also post election results.
Thank you. I will roll over to our engineer, Ben. Ben, any updates from you?
Thank you, Mayor. Just real quick, today we had the pre-construction meeting for the Holmdel Firehouse. So we are currently in the process of reviewing shop drawings from the contractor. They've applied for permits from the building department, and that project is expected to start up in the next few weeks, probably by early November.
Excellent. Thank you. Anything from the committee for Ben? Cool. Thank you, Ben. Counselor, any update from you?
Sure. Real quickly, Mayor, good evening to you and to the committee. The only thing I'd mention, I know it's been an issue that the public's been very interested in. At long last, we have a trial set in the New Jersey natural gas litigation concerning the regulator station along Holmdel Road. The trial will actually be commencing tomorrow. Earlier this evening, the committee met with its special counsel, Peter Dixon, who is representing the township in the matter, and got legal advice from him and an update. So that trial will be moving forward. The township certainly went through the process to represent itself and to get to trial, and we'll see what the outcome is. But just so the public's aware that that's moving forward. I wouldn't expect a decision until sometime after, because the judge will probably have to reflect upon a whole lot of testimony and write a decision. So it could take months, just like it was the case with the JCP&L case that you'll probably recall a year or two back. But that's the update I could provide for you on that, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the committee? None? Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. So get some updates from the boards. Deputy Mayor, could I start with you?
Sure. I've been busy. So let me start with the Traffic and Bike Safety Committee, which always makes me smile. They submitted their preliminary initial recommendations to the Township Committee, and those have been reviewed by the Township Administrator, who is supporting their recommendations and efforts to move forward, which the committee is asking for some support from the Township Committee to be able to take next steps, because the committee can only advise and recommend. So we're looking forward to the committee's support to do that. They have met 6 times so far, almost every 2 weeks since the end of June. And I'm just really pleased with some of the efforts and ideas that the committee has undertaken, including meeting with other outside state organizations and entities that can provide resources to Holmdel as we move forward on trying to find ways to make this a more bikeable and pedestrian-friendly town. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. We don't have a definitive plan yet, but we have kind of preliminary ideas and recommendations, again, focusing on connectivity between our parks and schools and ways that we can do that and partner with the county and other entities, and also efforts that we're taking, including training that all members received on doing what's called a bike audit, where you assess the safety and conditions of a road, which is helpful in moving forward for applying for grants and also meeting other criteria and recognition from the state and federal level. So I'm really pleased with the work and effort of the committee and looking forward to taking that to the next step with some professional assistance on what we, where's the best place to start. With 450 roads in Holmdel, that's one of the biggest challenges. Where do we begin? But we've got a lot of energy and a lot of great ideas. And then the Human Relations Committee, Ad Hoc Committee on Human Relations, had their second meeting. And I'm also really, really pleased with that committee. The committee is tackling a really tough issue, but I think we're making significant progress and doing a lot of really good listening and starting to come up with, focusing on things that we can do that are productive and proactive and help us all kind of move forward. So more to come on that.
Thank you. Appreciate the update. Committeeman Santana.
Yep. So I have an update on the ad hoc work that we're doing related to analyzing JCP&L's financials for the last 10 years. We formed a committee of 13 people, 13 residents. Interestingly, 10 of them are from the Holmdel High School Politics Club. So those students have been very kind to donate their time to work towards this exercise. So I'm really looking forward to working with them. We've started to collect data. So hopefully in the next month or so, we can come back and share with you some details on our analysis.
Thank you very much. That's great. Committeeman Pascucci.
Just a quickie. I'd like to continually thank our police, fire, first aid, OEM, Public Works, our buildings department, and all our staff for keeping Holmdel safe. Each one plays a little part. Even our inspection department with fire alarms and carbon monoxide, it's a team approach. And I thank every one of them for helping keeping Holmdel one of the safest towns around. Thank you.
Thank you, Committeeman. I have just a couple updates. First is I just sent a letter out to the president of JCP&L. As Committeeman Santana just mentioned, this is on the forefront of our minds. We are still not happy with the response we're getting from JCP&L regarding the infrastructure that we have in place, nor the availability of spare equipment to be housed in Holmdel. So when a piece does fail and people are out of power, it can be immediately restored. So I documented that, put in writing, and on Monday, the administrator and I will be in Trenton testifying regarding the JCP&L outage and the, I'll call it the debacle that they put us through for nearly a week and really left a lot of people in very bad shape. So more to come on that. I'll provide a feedback and update after the testimony, but that'll be taking place next week. Secondly, on the way home today, I happened to pass by the first aid squad, and all 4 trucks were lined up in the driveway. noticed that the lifters that were ordered have now been delivered and installed. So now, as Dr. Scucci said, the lifeline of this town is the first responders and all the volunteers. What was happening over years was that people volunteering have to get to a patient, and some of our volunteers are younger or small and had trouble lifting people to getting them from the stretcher into the back of the ambulance. So these new lifters now will allow, as the stretcher comes down and they wheel it to the ambulance, it actually lifts up the stretcher and brings them back in. So no longer do we have to have our police, which were generally were the ones helping lift patients up with the first aid people, to do any more heavy lifting for providing patients. And literally all 4 trucks have one. The township purchased 2 and the first aid purchased 2. So literally every truck that they have, when it goes out, will have one in the back in case it's needed when they're bringing a patient in. And it's also safer for the patient as well, because less likely that they're going to be potentially damaged or hurt when they're being lifted up. So I thought that was great news. And the other thing I'll remind you, as the police always say, Holmdel is becoming a target for criminals because of people leaving their cars unlocked and keys inside. The police say, every time I see them, they say, please remind the public to lock their cars and take their keys inside. Do not leave your keys in the car. We have periodic issues. In fact, the committee gets updated almost every week with some issues, and a lot of them are resolved around people looking for cars. They literally troll around Holmdel now because we become the hotspot. It's easy to get into a car because the key's in it and it's unlocked and just drive away. And they know where they're finding them in the inner cities, and it's becoming a challenge. So if we can all be vigilant in taking our keys with us and locking the cars, we can get rid of this problem. This is, I think, an easy one that we can, take care of fairly quickly and kind of cut this off and let police do other work in town, not worried about the cars being stolen. That is all I have. If anybody doesn't have any other comments, I will open up for public comment. We go into queue. The clerk will put you up. I ask you to just state your name, address, and you have up to 3 minutes for any public comment. Wendy?
The first public comment is Ann Von Tempo.
Hi, good evening. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
This is Anne Marie Bontempo. I live at 22 Grandview Drive. And I just wanted to add to Sharon's comments on voting. If anyone wants to vote, I support voting 100%. And if you would like to let the general public know, on the state level, on the website, the state.nj.us, a voter can track their mail ballot. That means that you can register and track your vote by mail through the Track My Ballot portal. First-time users have to create an account and will need either a driver's license number, the last 4 digits of their social security number, or their voter ID number to validate their voter registration status. And if they don't know their voter ID, they can obtain it by going to Am I Registered, or contact the Superintendent of Elections or Commissioner of Registration. But this allows people who are mailing in their ballots to track their ballot through this portal. And I thought it was a great resource for people who might have a concern about where their ballots are and at what point it's at. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you for your comment. Carrie?
The next public comment is Zach.
Hi, this is Zach Gilstein, 11 Chardonnay Drive.
How are you, Zach?
I'm great, thanks. I've listened to the Township Committee meetings recently, and have heard a fair amount of talk about the blue line, some of it quite impassioned. I have to say that I find this discussion mostly pointless. Whether the blue line persists or is erased, it will do nothing to change systemic racism in our society, nor elevate the level of respect for all racial, religious, ethnic, gender, or other groups. Moreover, just as it is inappropriate to stereotype any particular race, religion, ethnic, gender, or other group, it is equally inappropriate to stereotype all policemen on the basis of the heinous acts of a small minority of policemen. If we are to make a difference in our society and in our community, it needs to start with developing more mutual respect for people different than ourselves. Toward this end, I offer the following recommendation. We should undertake an initiative in Holmdel, starting with the Township Committee, to have all residents sign the Stand Up for the Other pledge. It's a simple statement of commitment to stand up for the other when someone makes a biased or hateful comment about any group. I'll read it to you. While interacting with members of my own faith or ethnic or gender community or with others, if I hear hateful comments from anyone about members of any other community, I pledge to stand up for the other and speak up to challenge bigotry in any form. This pledge was initiated by Dr. Mohammed Ali Chaudhry during the quarterly meeting of an Interfaith Advisory Council of the New Jersey Department of Homeland Security and Preparedness, held at Drew University in March 2015. All New Jersey state senators took the pledge in Trenton on December 19, 2016. This pledge has been around for about 5 years and signed by thousands of people. Given the heightened sensitivity to the issues of race and other forms of bigotry, I think it would be a positive step forward to undertake such an initiative now. Racial bigotry, religious persecution, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, or any other form of hatred cannot be wiped out unless each and every one of us confronts it within our own circles of family and friends. Silence is seen as consent, and too often people remain silent rather than stand up and confront the bigotry. It takes courage to stand up for the other. I recognize that signing a pledge such as this will not solve the challenge of systemic racism and other forms of bias in our society, but I do believe that by doing this, it will sensitize people to the subtle and not so subtle ways that bias and bigotry are perpetuated, whether it's by inappropriate speech, jokes, or other acts. And perhaps with more people calling out such behavior, we will move our community forward to one of greater mutual respect for all people, regardless of how they may differ from my race, religion, gender, ethnicity, or other identifying characteristic. More information about this can be found at standupfortheother.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach. I would say, Deputy Mayor, is this something you could take back into your committee, your next meeting?
Yes, and actually the timing is perfect because we're now actually working on a joint document of recommendations and ways that we can, really do things that we directly involve the community. So thank you. I appreciate this.
That's good. Thank you, Kath. Thank you, Zach.
The next public comment is Ralph Blumenthal.
Good evening. Hello. Do you hear me?
I got you, Ralph. Yes.
Hi, thank you. Just want to thank all of you and especially
Can you just state your address for the record, please?
Ralph Blumenthal, 41 Stony Brook Road. Just thank all of you and Sharon for the steps you've taken on improving the agenda and, the bill payment list and those kinds of things that you've heard and you're listening and you're acting, and that's great. Then I just wanted to ask a very general question with regard to the statement Greg sent out on September 30th, and I'm looking at the email version about it, about COVID. It's something that all of us have been following and concerned about. And I've been following the Monmouth County numbers, which reports the Holmdel numbers. And I've been puzzled by some of the numbers. And perhaps you can just briefly explain what some of the things that go into it and what the numbers mean. For example, the numbers go up and then they go down, as if people all of a sudden were not diagnosed with it, or it went away or whatever. Then the correction you found, all of a sudden it went down for Holmdel by 50. Huh? It's unclear. The numbers for Holmdel, I believe, and this is like your comments, represent residents of Holmdel who may or may not, well, who are in Holmdel usually, but not, say, people in the hospital who may live elsewhere, because people in the senior or nursing homes or assisted living may be counted because they may be partly counted as residents. And then from seeing the numbers and from whatever information Greg, you or Sharon or others may have, what is leading to people getting it, or what can we learn from it as to, other than the standards, wear a mask, wash your hands, socially distance? Are there particular things which seem to be causing problems that we ought to be aware of to avoid, especially anything particular to our community?
So I'll start, and then Sharon, you could jump in. The update I provided was one that was vetted through by Sharon, head of OEM, and chief of police with the Board of Health before we communicate those numbers out. And the state sets the criteria for what is counted and what isn't counted. So, and they change things along the way, and they don't always communicate that out. So when the last update, we were one of the lowest we've been with active cases. Some of the cases that show on the board are ones that are people may have had it, but they may have gotten better. And for some reason, the county does not take them off. So the township committee signed the letter, sent it in to the freeholders and the Board of Health back in, I'd say April, Kathy, if I'm not mistaken, because we
Quite some
weren't,
time ago. Mhm.
yeah, we weren't happy, and we haven't really gotten any response on that. But also you have the challenge of school children which live in Holmdel that could go away to school, get positive tested, and then it comes back to a Holmdel number, even though they're not technically in Holmdel right now. And then we also had at our peak, we had residents who were in an assisted living, but yet their Medicare billing was to, let's say, Marlboro, but they live in Holmdel, so Marlboro would get the positive case, and we wouldn't even know that the person was positive in Holmdel. So it wasn't a very good representation. I don't think it's gotten much better. And I look at the numbers every day, as I know all the people on the committee do, to try to get some sense of what's going on and what we're headed for, and trying to be extremely proactive. Sharon, you want to add anything?
Sure, I think you covered a lot. I think it's important to note that in Holmdel, we had, right before the mayor's communication the day before, there was a big drop off on the numbers. The numbers that come out are supposed to represent the total number of cases we have had in our community since the pandemic started. That includes people that may have already recovered. There was a huge drop off, which makes no sense. We lost about 50 cases in one day, and it doesn't really make sense if that's supposed to be the total number. To the best of what we can put together, and again, we're only working with the information that we're given from the county, which has been a little difficult and a little strange. It appears that they may have been counting presumed cases for a period of time, and then when those cases were not confirmed, they were taken off the list. So that's what represents the big drop off. Since that drop off, our numbers have been relatively steady in Holmdel. We're about 243, I think was today's number. And we've been relatively steady. So we don't see any huge sharp rises in our direct community. I think overall, what seems to be the biggest spread is large gatherings of people that are not practicing social distancing. And you see that everywhere from, in some of our shore towns south of us who had younger people who decide to have parties or activities. When people don't practice that social distance and have large gathers, that's where in general the spikes start to occur.
And I think what you said before, Sharon, was township is running the drive boo in the rec department. We are, Halloween is happening. We're just encouraging people to please use precautions and follow the executive order and CDC guidelines with how you're handing out candy in the safe manner. It's going to be different. Wearing a mask, not a costume mask, but an actual mask when you're out and about to cover your face. So that could potentially be a concern as well, and really discouraging any indoor parties or gatherings, only because of the spreading that's occurring right now. Carrie?
Next public comment is Sarah F.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
I got you, Sarah. Just state your name and address, please.
Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Sarah Faisal. I live on 26 Wild Edge Lane.
Got it.
Sorry, what was that?
I said you got it. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So at the last meeting, I made a comment about the way the committee has been ignoring and silencing student activist voices at these meetings. And you said that I have to have an example because if we have comments, we typically make them here, not via Facebook. So I only get 3 minutes to speak, unfortunately, since there's no other way for me to include myself in this conversation. On Facebook, explain to me the message that was made by you, Mayor Greg Bontempo, on the Holmdel Republican Facebook page, stating that recently some student activists have petitioned Holmdel Township Committee to remove the blue line that runs down Crawford's Corner Road in front of Town Hall. We stand with the police and with the blue line. The blue line stands. The statement was actually made on July 1st before we had begun speaking at these meetings, proving you were never looking forward to engaging in conversation with us. My point was that instead of engaging in conversation, reading through the sources we had provided under petition, or answering our emails simply asking for the line's removal, you decided to post that message. You did not acknowledge a single source we cite, nor did you acknowledge Black Lives Matter whatsoever in that statement. Additionally, in response to a constituent, you had also said that at the last meeting that if you are aware of racial bias and somebody treated it improperly, you can report it to the police. We take every account very seriously and will see if any laws that were broken. And then you continued to say, so people should not have to live in fear in this town. And so if the police care so much about taking racial bias cases, as they should, and they care about protecting the rights of everyone in Holmdel, then would they also have a problem with us putting up Black Lives Matter signs around Holmdel? If all of you, plus the police, claim to care so much about the lives and rights of POCs and everyone else in Holmdel, and believe none of them should live in a state of fear, then would you, Mayor Bontempo, also distribute BLM signs the way you helped to distribute Blue Lives Matter signs? Additionally, another individual at the last meeting had suggested that instead of removing the line fully, perhaps there could be a black line placed next to the blue line. And my question would be, if you are all supporting the police as well as members of Holmdel, regardless of race, as you have stated numerous times before, then would you consider this as an alternative solution to the blue line issue? Lastly, I had another complaint about a recent accusation made by the Holmdel Republican Party to Holmdel BLM, where it was stated that we were responsible for damaging Republican signs in Holmdel, followed up by us being labeled as cowards. So me and the other BLM lead organizers know nothing about that. So not only was it lousy to make a false accusation, but it also instills a state of fear, hatred, and division. So I wanted to know how any of you find that acceptable. With election day coming up, and it's important for people to understand what their leaders' intentions are and whether or not they stand with all communities of Holmdel, which is why I want to ask all of you these questions. Also, if you don't answer, I will be asking these same questions again at the next meeting. So thank you and have a great night.
Thank you for your comments.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to address that. I would just like to state that I have addressed this issue. I have stated my position, and I am chairing the ad hoc committee for human relations. That committee, while closed because of the fact that it is an ad hoc committee and we're trying to make genuine progress is making genuine progress and having the difficult conversations that we need to have and coming up with constructive ways that we as a community can work together. So I do feel like we are taking action here. And I personally feel like I'm taking action, and I'm sorry if it's not good enough for you, but we have people that are volunteering and trying and making an effort. And I think really good things are going to come out of that. And the reality is that change takes time. And I'm asking for your patience because we are going to be making positive change. Thank you.
Thank you. Carrie?
Next public comment is Eileen Huang.
Hi, Eileen Huang. I'd prefer not to state my address.
Counselor, is that okay?
I'd say the public commenter should proceed with comment.
Okay. Yeah, you can proceed with comment. Are you there?
So just following up with what Kathy said and following up what Sarah said, I'm interested in what progress or what tangible progress the committee has made, the ad hoc committee has made. Have you passed any resolutions? Like, what are your concrete suggestions and what kind of difficult conversations are you having at the moment?
Thank you for your comment. Before you reply, Kathy.
Okay. So yes, what I'd like to reply is that the committee established ground rules for our conversations. One of those is confidentiality. And so I am not going to share individual comments or discussions. What I can tell you in a big picture perspective is that we've only had 2 meetings. Our first meeting, quite frankly, was a meeting where we had to get to know each other and establish our kind of basis and focus, which I believe we're starting to do. At our second meeting, an outcome of that was, I think we're coming together in kind of a shared purpose and mission, and we're working together on a joint document of recommendations we can make to the Township Committee. The committee itself is an ad hoc committee, and we can only make recommendations to the Township Committee, and the scope of our charge is limited to the township. We do not have jurisdiction over the school system, so it's important to know that as well. And I know there's a separate effort going on with the schools. So that is all I have to offer at this time. But again, I'm very encouraged by the progress and direction of the committee.
Thank you. Carrie?
There are no other hands up at this time, Mayor.
Okay. None being seen, I have a motion to close public comment.
Move.
Second.
Need a roll call, Wendy? You're doing aye? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Please make sure you vote.
Thank you.
I think that motion closed public comment, so maybe just a motion to adjourn, Mayor.
Oh.
Go on it.
Second
Move.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call. Aye.
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 Aye.